I like this angle, but his ass is just hanging out. Jesus Christ. Welcome back to Central Park Sculptures. If you're watching me on YouTube, hello. If you're watching me on Twitch, hello. I'm currently live broadcasting using my camera and a broadcasting device. I am here to talk about all the sculptures in the park. This is day 2, week 2. Hopefully I can get this done before all the leaves are gone. I'm going to be doing this for a while, and then when I'm done shooting it all, because I'm here really to take pictures, I'm going to be making a book. I'm going to be streaming that as well. I've been streaming making these little zines as well. I make these tiny little booklets of information for myself. I got a question about that. Yes, I make these. They're not pretty, but gets the job done. Thanks for joining me. It's nice to have you. It's daylight savings now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish everything in one day. We're really close to where we ended last week. We're at Cherry Hill Fountain. This was designed by Jacob Ray Mould in 1860 and was part of the original design. If you might remember from part 1, I talked about how Literary Walk was designed for the rich people to arrive by carriage near where Columbus and Shakespeare are, and then they would walk along the mall to Bethesda Terrace. And what they would do is they would have their carriages go around and meet them at Bethesda Terrace, and the horses would drink water here at Cherry Hill Fountain. This was a watering hole for those horses. There's no water in there now. I have a picture of old horse carriages drinking from it right here. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. One thing I really like about this fountain is you can see it has little cups for the birds. The birds can drink water. At least someone's getting something out of it, right? Now you might be thinking, Romke, is that the fountain from Friends? If we wait long enough, we might hear a pedicab roll up with the theme song from Friends. But no, obviously Friends was filmed on a soundstage in Los Angeles. So, no, that's not this fountain. 3, 2, 1, jump! Nice. I got the shot. This is the famous fountain. Horse hole, yep, this is the horse hole. It's correct, Picnic Man? That's the shot. That is the shot. I'm going to take a picture of it down here first before I move on. Oh my god. Oh my god. Do you see this? I had my lens cap on. I love that. It's just 2 frames. Okay. The Falconer. Alright, this time my lens cap is off. Oh, this is cool. Oh! I'm getting an upskirt shot here. That's inappropriate. I like this angle, but his ass is just hanging out. He's not even wearing tights. Where's the zine? Oh, here we go. The Falconer was cast in 1871 in Florence. Huh. Thought it was in Rome. It says Rome on the sculpture. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It was erected in 1875. Central Park has been the home of 4 diurnal raptor species: the red-tailed hawk, the peregrine falcon, American kestrel, and osprey. If you tuned into our stream a couple weeks ago when we were walking around the Ramble with Donovan and Rosie, we actually spotted a hawk. Yeah, if you're just tuning in, there's a hawk right here. I don't have a zoom lens.
Oh, he's going somewhere.
Oh, my finger was in the way. There's a rich community of birders in New York, and Central Park, especially the Ramble across the lake, is one of the premier destinations for those folks. Oh shit. Oh, fuck. Okay. I gotta be a little bit more careful than that. I'm gonna drop down over here. Oh, yeah. That's great. I might have one from below. That might be cool. Oh, bit of an awkward position. That's a good one. That's a keeper. Hey. Might be a little quiet since there's a bridal shoot happening next to me. Beautiful day out here. It's been cold the last couple days, but maybe this will be the last nice day in the mid-60s that I get to be here. It's going to be raining the next couple days. I have a lot more to do today. I have to keep moving. What am I saying? It's a perfect right angle. What the hell? That's where we are now? Say hello to Daniel Webster. Let me put my bag down. This is a behemoth of a sculpture. Huge, what do you call it? Pedestal? It's got a lot of books up there. You see Thomas Ball's name. He's a sculptor. This was dedicated in 1876. Paid for by Gordon W. Burnham. Rich guy I'll talk about a little later. It says here on the base, liberty and union now and forever, one and inseparable. Daniel Webster. And that quote comes from his famous speech, Second Reply to Hayne, which he made in 1830. Is known as the most famous speech ever to have been given at the United States Congress. It was so long, it took over 2 days for him to speak on it. He brought like 12 pages of notes and just ad-libbed the whole thing. And it's remarkable when you read it. It doesn't feel improvised, but it was, to an extent. They were hotly debating essentially states' rights, a bunch of other stuff, but this was an important time, obviously, in the 1830s. But the sculpture was vandalized in 2020 during the height of the George Floyd protest movement. And I'll pop a picture, boop, right here. And it was because of this speech. The same speech that made Daniel Webster an icon. That same speech is what got him in hot water very recently. Now, what did he say? I read it. I control F for slavery, but I regard domestic slavery as one of the greatest evils, both moral and political. But whether it be a malady, and whether it be curable, and if so, by what mean? Or, on the other hand, whether it be the vulnus immedicable, I don't know. Whether it be the vulnus immedicable of the social system, I leave it to those whose right and duty it is to inquire and to decide. I don't know enough about politics at the time to comment on it, but whatever you think. The speech ended with this, and it is, it's kind of corny, but it's cool. Here's my best attempt. So while the union lasts, we have high, exciting, gratifying prospects spread out before us, for us and our children. Beyond that, I seek to penetrate the veil. God grant that in my day, at least, that curtain may not rise. God grant that on my vision never may be opened what lies behind. When my eyes shall be turned to behold for the last time the sun in heaven, may I not see him shining on the broken and dishonored fragments of a once glorious union. On states dissevered, discordant, belligerent, on a land rent with civil feuds, or drenched, it may be, in fraternal blood, let their last feeble and lingering glance rather behold the gorgeous ensign of the Republic, now known and honored throughout the earth, still full high advanced, its arms and trophies streaming in their original luster, not a stripe erased or polluted, nor a single star obscured, bearing for its motto no such miserable interrogatory as, what is all this worth? Nor those other words of delusion and folly, liberty first and union afterwards, but everywhere, spread all over in characters of living light, blazing on all its ample folds, as they float over the sea and over the land, and in every wind, under the whole heavens, that other sentiment, dear to every true American heart, liberty and union, now and forever, one and inseparable. There it is. There's the quote. That's the quote on the base! Has become somewhat controversial, but honestly, I think that there's more controversial figures here in the park.
You don't have to applaud, but that's the only way I know doing a good job, and I thank you very much, everybody. And welcome to Strawberry Fields, a living memorial to the memory of John Lennon. So, all that being said, I'm gonna sing what's written in stone. Magic.
This is Strawberry Fields. I'm saying this is because I'm dubbing it over. It was officially dedicated on October 9th, 1985, the 45th anniversary of Lennon's birth, funded in large part by Yoko Ono. He was killed just a block away, right by the Dakota building, where Yoko still lives.
Imagine all the people. All the way. Everybody go you.
Now, I wanted to talk about all the flowers and everything that's by Strawberry Fields, but it being late fall, they're not here. We'll have to come back in the spring to take a look at them, which I'm not likely to do, but I'll just talk about them anyway. It contains native rhododendrons and hollies, Carolina allspice, mountain laurel, viburnums, and jetweed. Wild shrub roses and a mature pink magnolias, solangiana. Closed by woodland are 3 dawn redwood trees. The trees can be expected to reach a height of 36 meters within 100 years, and eventually they will be visible from great distances in the park.
Let Yoko hear.
Ultimately, it's a mosaic on the ground to remember Lennon after he was killed. John Lennon, not Vladimir Lenin, to be specific. But, okay, let's move on.
Thank you, guys. Rock and roll. Thank you very much, everybody. You don't have to applaud, but come on. That's the only one I know I'm doing a good job of that. Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you, guys.
7th Regiment Memorial, created by John Quincy Adams Ward, again. He's all over the place. John Quincy Adams Ward created this one, and the base was designed by Richard Morse Hunt. Although the statue is dated to 1869, the monument was not unveiled until 1874, and honestly the reason for it is because the original designers of the park, Olmsted and Vaux, were like, nah, dude. We don't want this to be like a military sculpture park with like sad memorials. We want this to be a happy place for people to come and relax. So they changed the design and made it less mournful and made it more of just a soldier standing. Let me bring you up close. It says here, in honor of the members of the 7th Regiment NGSNY, 58 in number, who gave their lives in defense of the Union 1861 to 1865. According to the American Battlefields Trust, the 7th United States Infantry Regiment possesses an illustrious history as one of the 5 oldest continuously serving regiments in the U.S. Army. Initially organized in July 1798, they participated in the Battle of New Orleans in January 1815 under the command of General Andrew Jackson. The regiment there earned its nickname, the Cotton Balers, from its use of cotton bales as defensive works during the Battle of New Orleans. They fought with the Army of the Potomac against General Robert E. Lee at Gettysburg, where they lost a little over half their soldiers. And that's what this is commemorating. But the 7th Regiment still exists today. I'm losing light already, as I suspected. I need to get up earlier to do these now with daylight savings. This camera works great in low light, but the photo camera does not. That is the problem. I would love to just keep shooting all afternoon, but alas, that won't work with this Mia. At least not with this phone.
So yeah, I left my corporate job in March after like a long time, and it's been okay. You know,
good.
A little scary, but you're watching the internet. All right, thank you, man.
You too. He's got eye bags like mine. Ecco. Giuseppe Mazzini. It says on the side, pensiero ed azione, which means thought and action. Who's Mazzini? Why is Mazzini here? It says here in the back, presented to the city of New York by the Italians in the U.S. of America, 1878. Giuseppe Mazzini lived from 1805 to 1872. Mazzini was an Italian politician, journalist, and activist for the unification of Italy, and he was the spearhead of the Italian revolutionary movement. He was a very interesting guy, kind of an edgy dude. Mazzini in particular was pretty interesting because this was around the same time as a lot of post-Enlightenment thinkers, the Paris Revolution, and so on, which he kind of clashed with, though he fought for women's rights, which was somewhat controversial at the time. He rejected the concept of the rights of man, which had developed during the Age of Enlightenment, arguing instead that individual rights were a duty to be won through hard work, sacrifice, and virtue, rather than rights which were intrinsically owed to mankind. In 1871, Mazzini condemned the radical, anti-religious, and revolutionary socialist revolt in France that led to the creation of the short-lived Paris Commune. This caused Karl Marx to refer to Mazzini as a reactionary and old ass. You know, it's kind of incredible that there's no monument to Seneca Village. So we started like here, and we're here now. I'm going to go over there. If I'm not mistaken, I think Central Park has 27 ball fields. Central Park was designed to not have any sport or recreation initially. That was not the idea. At a certain point, a big change was made and sports were introduced, and mostly baseball. Even though the park wasn't initially designed for sports. I don't know if it was in the original design, but this little house here was designed by Calver-Vaux, one of the designers of Central Park. Let me show you. That is the Ballfields Café. Well, originally, when Calver-Vaux designed it, it was the Ballplayers' house. Calver-Vaux's Boys' Playhouse of 1868 stood on the northern edge of the Heckscher Ballfields until it was demolished in 1969. Vaux's building was a 52-foot-long clubhouse and dispensary for bats and balls. Whereas this new building, which was completed in 1990, a food concessions building, half the size of the original. Kind of like the original, but pretty different too, and I have a little drawing of the original here. Gotta hop off. Yeah, I got it as well, honestly. It's too dark. I mean, it looks great on stream, but it's too dark to take pictures of. It's just gonna be all silhouettes. So I'm gonna have to pause here. Welcome back. It's been a week, and it's gotten a lot colder. Welcome to Indian Hunter. Indian Hunter by John Quincy Adams Ward, famous American sculptor, who has multiple sculptures here, which we've already seen, including Shakespeare back there, which we saw earlier. This was unveiled in 1869, and it is actually the first sculpture by an American artist at Central Park. It is based on drawings and wax studies from an 1864 trip to Dakota Territory and painted here in 1869. Kind of cool, right? The first piece by an American sculptor, and acknowledging of this territory being Native American. Interesting history there, which I don't really know that thoroughly. I just know that the Dutch bought the territory of Manhattan from a Native American tribe for a box of material goods. Adjusted for inflation, it's worth a couple $100. But technically, it didn't really make sense because Native Americans didn't think about territory in terms of ownership. And even if they did, apparently it was the wrong tribe. But anyway, you know, the rest is history. Oops. That'll help advancing the film. That's a cool picture. One more shot on this roll. Kind of interesting to have Indian hunters so close to Columbus. Right about there. There's a plaque here I want to take a look at. I don't know what this plaque is about. We're going to find out. This is our duty. Sergeant Joyce Kilmer, in memoriam. Poet of the trees. Killed in action. Bois Cola. Probably France, huh? July 30, 1918. Poet of the trees. This is Eagles and Prey. It is the oldest known sculpture in any New York City park. Created in 1850 by the French artist Christophe Fratin. It depicts two eagles attacking a goat. It was gifted to the park in 1863 by the American millionaire Gordon W. Burnham, who we talked about earlier. He also gifted the Daniel Webster sculpture. There's nothing historical being depicted here. It's a very nationalistic, rah-rah kind of sculpture. I don't know if the goat represents another country or some kind of political faction or something. I don't really know. Maybe somebody can tell me if they know. Who is Gordon Burnham? He was raised to be a farmer in eastern Connecticut, but instead wound up a successful brass magnate. I noticed in the other, I keep grabbing my valuables and it just it looks weird. I gotta stop doing that. This is technically on the list, so I'll cover it. This flagstaff is dedicated to all city employees who died in all wars of the United States. This is the City Employees War Memorial. Very faintly here, we can see some text. And I really have to squint here. Presented by Mrs. Charles Augustine, Robinson? National flag, flag something, of the veterans of foreign wars of the United States, November 11? 1906, maybe? Anyway, it's probably in my booklet. It was funded by Miss Charles Augustine Robinson, who, according to the flagstaff inscription, was the national flag lady of the Veterans Foreign Wars of the United States. Oh, that does say lady. Yeah, okay. During the wild days, this is from sourced online. I don't remember exactly which website. During the wild days of the 1960s and the 1970s, the four eagles at the base were cut off and stolen, leaving a great place to stash drugs. Some 30 years after they disappeared, the New York City Department of Investigation traced 2 of the stolen eagles to an office in Manhattan and confiscated them. Unclear if these are them returned or if they're new ones. And also on the back here it says, in memoriam of the heroism and the sacrifices of the city employees who fought in the various wars of the United States. 4 eagles, some emblems, the kind of emblems you see on your American coins. And obviously the flag. Kind of a rusty pole, but you know, that's how it goes. It doesn't feel like people ever come here to this flagpole. That's kind of it. Not remarkable at all. Yeah, I used to be a tour guide. Back in 2012. Oh, I guess that's 10 years ago. When I was making the America book, I was a tour guide. And I did some stuff in Central Park. All in Dutch, by the way, believe it or not. Here we have a little plaque in memory of S. Rankin Drew, killed in action May 19, 1918. It might seem odd that there's a plaque for just a single soldier on their own when, you know, it was a lot of people who lost their lives. This was a beloved person. S. Rankin Drew was a famous actor at the time. I'm going to superimpose a movie of his right here. Boop. Actor, director from the silent film era, and ancestor of Drew Barrymore. I don't know who this guy was when I first looked him up. Victor Herbert. Victor Herbert lived from 1859 to 1924. You know, I'm putting my keys away. I'm confiscating my keys from my pocket. This is the problem. He was an Irish-American cellist, composer, and conductor. This was made by sculptor Edmund Thomas Quinn and dedicated in 1927. In 1886, Victor and his wife Therese, a well-known Viennese opera singer, moved to New York City, where she sang at the Metropolitan Opera Company while he played as first cellist. In the early 1890s, Herbert was I don't know if it's Herbert or Herbert. Anyway, Herbert was made a leader of the 22nd Regiment Band of the New York National Guard, and in the role of bandmaster often conducted concerts before large audiences gathered at the Central Park Bandstand, right over there, at the bandstand. From 1898 to 1904, Herbert conducted the Pittsburgh Symphony, and during this time also served as the guest conductor for the New York Philharmonic Society. Herbert's renown is perhaps most attributed to his prolific work as a composer of operettas and popular music. He wrote more than 40 operettas, including Babes in Toyland from 1903 and Naughty Marietta, 1910. He also wrote 2 grand operas and a score for the film Fall of a Nation in 1916, reputed to be the first original symphonic score for a feature-length film. How about that? That's pretty cool. Victor Herbert with a nice little mustache. A real cool guy. Good old Ludwig van. They did Ludwig van dirty. This is Beethoven. They placed him facing the theater here, the Naumburg band shell, but there's this tree in the way. He's facing a tree. The poor guy's deaf and now he's facing a tree. When you walk past him, you're looking at his back. It's crazy. I can't believe they did this. Good old Ludwig van, who lived from 1770 to 1827. Obviously a man who needs no introduction. But in 1884, a German-American choir society donated the Beethoven monument to the park. And at the base of the tall gray granite pedestal, he composed a bronze allegorical figure holding a lyre, personifying the genius of music. It was the first monument to a musician in the park and originally stood where the band shell is now. It was over there. Maybe he loves trees. Yeah, maybe he does love trees, but you know, sculptures are also like for people to enjoy. It's just odd. They did the same thing to Schiller right here. I'm looking at his long locks from behind, and the name of the sculptor, G.L. Richter. You get a great shot of his mullet. Johann C.F. von Schiller, that's Friedrich von Schiller, lived 1795 to 1805. Look at this stud. This was the first monument to be added to Central Park in 1859. Eagles and Prey, which we saw earlier, was finished earlier but placed later. It originally was installed in the Ramble, which is kind of like a dense forest within the center of Central Park. It's across the lake here from Bethesda Terrace. But it was moved to its current location near the mall to be near Beethoven, who made Schiller's Ode to Joy his famous Ninth Symphony finale. The New York Philharmonic, a classic Schiller-Beethoven collab. That's basically all the sculptures around Sheep's Meadow. Around Sheep Meadow. Sheep Meadow is over there. We just went all around it, well, over the course of 2 separate days, 2 different weeks. In case you're wondering, yeah, it's called Sheep Meadow because there used to be sheep grazing over there. Unfortunately, the sheep were evicted in 1934. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. I'll catch you in the next episode. That's